Okay, so have you ever, been scrolling through like celebrity news and stuff,
Wow.
and you see a star acting a little less than stellar, shall we say?
Yeah.
Like not their best self?
Hmm.
Well, today we are going to go deep on the psychology behind those headlines. And we're using this source called The Perils and Paradoxes of Fame and Fortune to explore just how the unique experiences of the rich and famous can shape their actions
Yeah.
in some pretty predictable and often eyebrow-raising ways.
Yeah, it's not about judging any individuals in particular.
Right.
It's really more about understanding that potent psychological cocktail that comes with fame and fortune.
Yeah, it's almost like they're living in a different reality.
Yeah.
Speaking of alternate realities, the source material dives into this concept called the illusion of privilege and chosenness.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, think about it this way. Imagine living in a world where you're just constantly showered with praise, given preferential treatment, and you just rarely, if ever, face consequences for your actions. Over time, this can lead to a really distorted sense of self,
Okay.
where you feel like the rules don't apply to you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But isn't a certain level of confidence, even maybe like a little bit of ego,
Uh-huh.
necessary to like succeed in fields like entertainment or business?
Sure.
So where's the line between like healthy ambition and this chosenness?
That's a great question. And that's really the heart of it all, right?
Yeah.
It's the degree to which this sense of privilege becomes all-encompassing.
Yeah.
And the source actually highlights this fascinating study on the psychology of wealth. And what it shows is that even small increases in economic power can lead to a measurable decrease in empathy.
Oh, wow.
Like literally the ability to relate to others' struggles
Wow.
diminishes.
So it's like wealth creates this psychological barrier
Yes.
between them and the rest of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of helps explain why we see, celebrities behaving erratically, demanding special treatment, and even breaking the law sometimes.
Yeah.
Like they're above it all with impunity.
Yeah.
But to complicate matters even more, age and gender come into this too.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, younger celebrities are often just catapulted to fame before their brains have fully developed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they might exhibit impulsivity and a sense of invincibility.
Yeah.
Think about like the classic, young star crashing cars,
Yeah.
ending up in rehab.
Oh, yeah. Those stories are all too common, sadly.
It's a tale as old as time.
Yeah. So what about older celebrities? Do they express this chosenness differently?
I think so often it comes off as more like aloofness, like they're above it all.
Okay.
They surround themselves with yes men
Yeah.
that reinforce this distorted reality they're living in.
Right.
And, for women in the spotlight, the scrutiny is just so much more intense.
Yeah.
It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Held to impossible standards.
It's a no-win situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're either too arrogant or not assertive enough, too glamorous or not relatable enough.
Precisely.
It's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah. And that can lead to some pretty dramatic consequences.
Which brings us to our next point, this normalization of bad behavior.
Yeah. And I think this is where that lack of accountability we talked about comes into play. When someone is constantly shielded from the consequences of their actions,
Right.
it creates a dangerous feedback loop.
It's almost like a real-life Truman Show where the lines between like reality and performance get blurred.
That's a fantastic analogy.
Yeah.
And it's not just about personal consequences, the normalization of bad behavior among the elite. It really just erodes public trust.
Right.
And it reinforces this idea that wealth equals moral superiority.
Yeah.
And that sets a dangerous precedent for everyone.
The source mentions this one example that's really jarring, and it said that there was this A-list actor who was notorious for making these crazy demands on set.
Oh, wow.
And like one of them was having an assistant whose only job was to hold his beverage at a specific temperature.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, come on, is that really necessary?
It really speaks to that sense of entitlement
Right.
that develops when you're just constantly catered to.
Yeah.
That line between a reasonable request and digo behavior gets very blurry.
So if this behavior is so pervasive, how do we as a society hold powerful people accountable?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like they're playing by a different set of rules.
It's a question that's been plaguing us for centuries.
Right.
But before we get into potential solutions, let's look at another fascinating aspect of fame psychology, and that is name dropping.
Yes.
And this insatiable desire to rub elbows with other famous people.
Yeah.
It might seem shallow, but the motivations behind it are actually quite complex.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Why do some people feel this need to constantly mention their famous friends or brag about exclusive events they've attended?
Right.
Is it just social climbing, or is there something deeper there?
There's definitely more to it than meets the eye. Often it really stems from a deep-seated need for validation, a desire to boost their own social status by associating with those who already possess it.
So it's like they're trying to borrow someone else's social capital.
Exactly.
Now, I've definitely seen this in my own life, too, with people always trying to befriend the influencers or the cool kids in their social circles.
Totally. Sociologists have even developed these whole theories around social capital.
Yeah.
It's like a currency in the social realm, right?
Right.
And associating with these high-status individuals is seen as a way to kind of increase your own value.
So this need to name drop and associate with famous people, it's just a manifestation of that deeper human desire for social acceptance.
Yeah.
And status.
Absolutely. And in a world obsessed with fame and fortune,
Right.
that desire is just amplified tenfold.
Yeah, for sure. But as with so many aspects of fame psychology, there's a flip side to this coin.
Yes.
And sometimes the pursuit of status can lead to a disconnect from one's roots.
Yeah.
You know, like forgetting where they came from.
Exactly. And that's that classic Gone Hollywood scenario, right? The once relatable star who suddenly seems totally out of touch with the struggles of everyday people.
And remember that psychological bubble we talked about?
Yeah.
Fame and fortune can really create this distorted reality that makes it difficult to relate to anyone outside that privileged circle.
It's sad, but it's so common.
Yeah.
And actually, the Perils and Paradoxes brings up this really poignant example of a musician who, after achieving global success, publicly dismissed the financial hardships of their fans.
Oh, wow.
And they basically said that, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day.
Oh, come on.
And it's a classic example of what psychologists call affluenza.
Affluenza.
Yeah, it's kind of like this social amnesia that comes with sudden wealth.
Wait, so affluenza is like a real psychological condition?
It's not an official diagnosis.
Okay.
But it captures this very real phenomenon of wealth and privilege leading to a distorted perception of reality.
Okay.
And it's not always a conscious choice. Sometimes this disconnect from one's roots is like a subconscious coping mechanism.
Okay.
It's a way to protect yourself from the guilt and discomfort of having made it.
Oh, right.
While others are still struggling.
I guess it's easier to dismiss other people's problems when you're living in a world where those problems don't exist.
Exactly.
So how does this forgetting one's roots tie into those exclusive social circles that celebrities often inhabit?
That is a great question, and it leads us to another really fascinating pattern, and that is the tendency for famous people to gravitate towards each other.
Right.
And form these exclusive cliques that further reinforce their separation from the general public.
Yeah, it's like they're living in a parallel universe, attending the same parties. Vacationing in the same exotic locale, sending their kids to the same elite schools.
Well, it's natural for humans to seek out people who share similar experiences and values.
Right.
And for celebrities who face unique challenges and pressures, it's understandable that they would find solace and camaraderie among their own.
But doesn't this kind of exclusivity just feed into that us versus them mentality?
Oh, totally.
Making it harder for celebrities to relate to the everyday experiences of their fans.
Absolutely. It's this self-perpetuating cycle where celebrities become increasingly isolated from the rest of the world.
Right.
Their perceptions shaped by this rarefied air that they breathe.
So in a way, this tendency to form exclusive circles, it kind of deepens that psychological bubble we've been talking about.
Yes.
Making it even harder for them to break free from the potentially negative effects of fame and fortune.
Precisely. And, this separation also kind of contributes to the mystique. Making celebrities seem even more desirable to the public.
Yeah.
It's really a complex interplay of social dynamics, psychological factors, media influence.
This is really making me rethink my whole perspective on celebrity culture. It's not just about the glitz and glamour anymore.
Right.
It's about understanding the underlying psychology, the pressures and the temptations that come with all of that.
Exactly. And that deeper understanding is really crucial, I think.
Yeah.
For both the celebrities themselves and us, the audience.
Okay, you've definitely piqued my interest.
Good.
I am now even more eager to dive into this next layer of this discussion, which is the allure of fame and our own fascination with this whole celebrity culture. But first, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more insights from the perils and paradoxes of fame and fortune.
Sounds good.
So before the break, we were talking about those exclusive circles. You know, celebrities kind of tend to form.
Right.
But let's be honest, it's not just the famous who are fascinated by fame. You know, there's a reason we're all kind of drawn to these stories, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's really deeply ingrained in our psychology. You know, remember that study we mentioned about wealth and empathy?
Yes.
Well, there's a flip side to that. We tend to idolize, you know, those who have achieved something that we admire, whether it's wealth, success, or recognition.
So it's not just envy, it's like something more primal.
Exactly. It taps into our innate desire for social connection and, you know, belonging.
Okay.
We're just drawn to stories of triumph.
Right.
Of those who have seemingly conquered challenges and achieved a level of status that we aspire to.
So it's like we're living vicariously through them, which I guess explains why we get so invested in celebrity gossip and drama.
Right.
It's almost like a soap opera playing out in real time.
That's a great way to put it. And, you know, we can't forget the role of the media.
Oh, yeah, of course.
In shaping our perceptions of fame.
Right.
The perils and paradoxes of fame and fortune has this whole chapter devoted to it.
Oh, wow.
It's fascinating.
What kind of insights does it offer?
Well, for starters, it highlights how the media often presents this very curated and often unrealistic version of fame. You know, focusing on the glitz and the glamour while downplaying the struggles and the sacrifices.
Yeah. It's like that saying, don't compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel.
Exactly.
Yeah, we only see the red carpets, the award shows, the perfect Instagram posts, you know?
Right.
It's easy to forget that there's a lot of hard work and rejection and pressure happening behind the scenes.
And that's part of the allure, isn't it? The fantasy of a life free from everyday struggles, you know?
Right.
A life of luxury, excitement, constant admiration.
You know, the source actually uses this phrase, aspirational fantasy.
Yeah.
And it's this idea that by observing and emulating those who have achieved fame, we somehow get closer to achieving it ourselves.
Right, and that's where the danger lies.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
Because when we buy into this fantasy, we risk losing sight of our own unique path and our own values.
Right.
We start chasing someone else's dream instead of forging our own.
That is a powerful insight. It's like we get so caught up in the what of fame, you know, the wealth, the status, the recognition, that we forget the why. Like, why do we want those things in the first place?
Exactly. And that's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
Because true fulfillment comes from aligning our actions with our own values, not from chasing external validation.
Okay, but let's be real. There's something undeniably captivating about this world of fame and fortune.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a train wreck you can't look away from.
It's true. And, you know, I'll admit, I find myself drawn to those stories, too.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even those who seem to have it all face very real human challenges.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be mindful
of
the stories that we're consuming and the messages that we're internalizing.
So how do we strike that balance? How do we appreciate the entertainment value of celebrity culture without falling into that trap of idolization or envy?
I think it starts with developing a more critical perspective.
Okay.
You know, we need to remember that fame is a construct.
Yeah.
It's this carefully crafted image that doesn't always reflect reality.
Right. And behind that curated persona, there's a real person with their own strengths, weaknesses, and complexities.
Exactly.
So it's like we need to take everything we see with a grain of salt, right? Acknowledge the entertainment value, but also remember that it's not the whole picture.
Exactly. And it's about being mindful of the impact this kind of content has on our own self-esteem and aspirations.
Yeah.
You know, are we comparing ourselves to an unrealistic ideal? Are we letting envy or insecurity drive our choices?
You know, it's interesting because the source material also mentions the psychological phenomenon of parasocial relationships.
Yeah.
It's this idea that we can form these intense one-sided bonds with celebrities feeling like we know them personally, even though we've never met them.
That is a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
And it explains why we feel such a strong emotional connection to these figures.
Right.
Why their successes and failures feel so personal to us.
Yes, exactly. It's like we're experiencing their lives alongside them.
Mm.
Celebrating their triumphs,
Yeah.
mourning their losses.
But it's important to remember that these relationships are, by nature, imbalanced.
Right.
We're projecting our own hopes, fears, and desires onto these individuals, often without knowing the full story or the complexities of their lives.
It's like we're creating an idealized version of them in our minds that might not even align with reality.
And that can lead to, disappointment, disillusionment, even unhealthy obsessions.
So how do we cultivate a healthier relationship with this celebrity culture? How do we appreciate it without getting swept up in the fantasy or letting it negatively affect our own lives?
I think it starts with being more discerning consumers of media.
Okay.
We need to question the narratives that we're presented with. Look beyond the surface. Remember that celebrities are human beings just like us.
Okay, so it's about being more critical.
Yeah.
More aware of the stories we're consuming and what we're internalizing. But how do we put that awareness into action?
Right.
What are some practical steps we can take?
That's a great question, and it leads us to another crucial aspect of this discussion.
Okay.
And that is diversifying our media diet.
Okay.
And seeking out alternative narratives. Remember, the media landscape is vast.
Right.
And there are plenty of voices and stories out there that challenge the dominant narratives of fame and fortune.
You mean like focusing on stories of everyday heroes,
Exactly.
people who are making a difference in their communities without seeking fame or recognition?
Exactly.
Okay.
And seeking out content that celebrates diverse perspectives, challenges traditional notions of success, and promotes values beyond wealth and status.
So it's about being more intentional with the content we consume. Choosing stories that inspire us and uplift us and challenge us to think differently about the world.
Precisely. And it's about recognizing the power that we have as consumers to shape the media landscape. The more we support content that aligns with our values, the more those voices will be amplified.
That's a great point. It's not just about passively consuming media. It's about actively shaping the narratives we want to see.
Exactly.
But before we get too carried away with our media manifesto, there's another crucial aspect of fame psychology we need to address, and that is the unique challenges faced by those who achieve success at a young age.
Yes. The child star phenomenon. It's a topic that often gets lost in the glitz and glamour.
Right.
But it deserves our attention.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of seeing young talent blossom.
Right.
But we often forget the immense pressure and scrutiny these individuals face.
Yeah, especially in today's hyper-connected world.
Right.
And the perils and paradoxes.
Yeah.
It doesn't shy away from these harsh realities.
Yeah.
It really highlights the unique vulnerabilities of child stars who are often thrust into the spotlight before they have a chance to develop a strong sense of self, or the coping mechanisms to deal with the challenges of fame.
Yeah, and it's not just the psychological impact. There's legal and financial considerations as well.
Absolutely.
That we kind of overlook.
Child stars are particularly susceptible to exploitation.
Yeah.
Both financially and emotionally.
Right.
They're often surrounded by adults who are more interested in profiting from their talent than protecting their well-being.
It's a heartbreaking reality, and it's a reminder that fame, especially at a young age, can come at a very steep price.
The source actually cites several really heartbreaking examples of child stars who struggled with addiction, financial ruin, even legal troubles as a result of their early fame.
So if the risks are so high, why do parents continue to push their kids into the spotlight? Is it just the allure of fame and fortune, or are there other things at play?
It's a complex question, and there's no easy answer.
Right.
Some parents might be driven by a genuine belief in their child's talent, while others may be blinded by the allure of vicarious fame or the potential financial rewards.
It's like that stage parent stereotype, the one living out their unfulfilled dreams through their kid.
Right, but even with the best intentions, it's such a delicate balance.
Right.
Supporting your child's ambitions while also protecting them from the potential pitfalls of fame.
And sadly, not all parents are equipped to handle that responsibility.
Unfortunately, that's true. We've seen countless examples
Yeah.
of parents who've exploited their children for financial gain or who've been blinded by the allure of fame,
Yeah.
putting their own ambitions ahead of their child's needs.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of fame and fortune can come at a steep price.
Yeah.
And it's often the young and vulnerable who end up paying the highest cost.
It's a sobering thought,
Mm.
and it's a challenge for all of us
Yeah.
to be more aware, more compassionate, more proactive in protecting those who are most at risk.
As we're talking about the potential downsides of fame, especially for young people, I'm reminded of those classic cautionary tales of child stars who struggle with things like addiction,
Yeah,
mental health issues.
right.
Is there a connection between early fame and these kinds of struggles?
Absolutely. The Perils and Paradoxes dedicates a whole section
Okay.
to the psychological impact of early fame, and it's eye-opening.
Yeah.
It highlights how the pressures of fame can exacerbate existing vulnerabilities,
Okay.
leading to things like anxiety, depression, even substance abuse.
So it's not just the lack of maturity or coping skills, it's the unique stressors that come with being in the public eye at such a young age.
Imagine being a teenager
Yeah.
and having every mistake, every awkward phase, every relationship drama
Oh my God.
broadcast to the world.
Right.
It's enough to make anyone crumble.
I hadn't thought about it that way before. It's like they're living their most vulnerable years under a microscope. And that can't be healthy. But besides just being aware of it, what can we do to better protect these young people who are entering this world of fame and fortune?
That's a crucial question, and it requires a multifaceted approach, I think.
Oh.
It's about creating a more supportive environment,
Okay.
both within the industry and within society as a whole.
When you say more supportive environment, what do you mean?
Well, for starters, it's about providing young performers with access to mental health resources, financial guidance, mentorship programs that can help them navigate the challenges of fame.
Okay, so equipping them with the tools and knowledge they need to make responsible choices and protect their well-being.
Exactly. It's also about fostering a culture of empathy and understanding,
Yeah.
recognizing that these are real people with real struggles,
Right.
not just characters in a never-ending reality show.
As we're talking about the responsibility of the industry and society as a whole,
Uh-huh.
I'm wondering what role parents and guardians play in all of this. They're ultimately responsible for their child's well-being.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Parents and guardians play such a pivotal role in shaping the experiences of young stars.
Yeah.
It's their job to protect their children from exploitation, to provide them with a strong foundation, and to ensure they have access to the support that they need.
It's a delicate balance, though.
Because
Supporting their ambitions, but also shielding them from the pitfalls.
absolutely, it requires a deep understanding of the industry, a strong moral compass,
Yeah.
and an unwavering commitment to the child's well-being.
And sadly, not all parents or guardians are equipped to handle that responsibility.
Unfortunately, that's true. We've seen countless examples of parents who have exploited their children for financial gain,
Right.
or who've been blinded by the allure of fame,
Right.
putting their own ambitions ahead of their children's needs.
Yeah, it's a reminder that the pursuit of fame and fortune can come at a very steep price, and it's often the young and vulnerable who pay the highest costs.
It's a sobering thought, and it's a challenge for all of us to be more aware, more compassionate, more proactive in protecting those who are most at risk.
Well said. This discussion has been incredibly eye-opening.
Good. I'm glad.
But before we wrap up our deep dive into this world of fame and fortune, I'm curious to explore, what we as individuals can learn from all of this.
Yeah.
Is there a way to apply these insights to our own lives, even if we're not celebrities or aspiring child stars?
That's a fantastic question, and I think it's really at the heart of this whole exploration.
Okay.
Because while we've been focusing on the unique experiences of the rich and famous strike, the psychological principles at play are universal. We all face temptations.
Right.
We all struggle with ego, and
Yeah.
we all crave recognition and validation.
To some degree.
Yes.
Exactly. So you're saying even though we may not be living under the same kind of scrutiny as celebrities, we can still learn from their mistakes and apply those lessons to our own lives.
Exactly. The key is to recognize the patterns, to understand the psychological mechanisms at work,
Yeah.
and to develop strategies for navigating those challenges in a healthy and constructive way.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What kind of strategies are we talking about?
All right, give me some practical tips.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, for starters, it's about being mindful of our own ego.
Okay.
recognizing when we're seeking validation for the wrong reasons,
Mm-hmm.
or letting our desire for recognition overshadow our values.
So it's about checking ourselves, basically.
Yeah.
Making sure we're not falling into those same traps of entitlement
Uh-huh.
or seeking external validation at the expense of our own well-being.
Exactly. It's also about cultivating gratitude,
Okay.
appreciating what we have.
Yes.
And focusing on building genuine connections rather than chasing that superficial status.
That's a great reminder. It's so easy to get caught up in the comparison game,
I know.
especially in today's social media world.
Yeah.
But true happiness comes from within, not from external validation.
Exactly. And it's about remembering that success is not a one-size-fits-all concept.
Right.
What matters most is aligning our actions with our values, pursuing our passions,
Yeah.
and making a positive impact on the world in our own unique way.
As we're talking about finding fulfillment outside of the traditional markers of success, I'm reminded of a quote from the source material.
Okay.
And it says, "True wealth is not measured in dollars and cents, but in the richness of our relationships, the depth of our experiences, and the contributions we make to the world around us."
That's a beautiful quote.
Yeah.
And it perfectly encapsulates the message we've been exploring today. Fame and fortune may be alluring, but true fulfillment lies in living a life of purpose, integrity, and connection.
Well said. This has been a truly insightful conversation. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective
I'm glad.
on the world of fame and fortune.
Oh, good.
But before we wrap up our deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to explore one last question.
Okay.
What is it about fame that continues to fascinate us even when we're aware of the potential pitfalls?
Right.
Why are we so drawn to these stories?
That's a great question to end on, and I think it speaks to the enduring power of storytelling.
Okay.
We're fascinated by fame because it offers us a glimpse into a world that is both familiar and extraordinary.
Familiar in the sense that we all share those basic human desires for connection, recognition, fulfillment.
Right.
But extraordinary in the sense that those desires are played out on a much larger stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Celebrity stories offer us this heightened version of our own experiences, a way to explore, the complexities of human nature, the temptations of power, and the enduring search for meaning and happiness.
It's like watching a real-life drama unfold.
Yeah.
With all of its twists and turns, its triumphs, and its tragedies.
And that's what keeps us coming back for more.
Yeah.
Even when we know the ending might not always be happy.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into this world of fame and fortune. But before we sign off, I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been a truly illuminating conversation.
Good. I'm glad.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this journey.
Yes.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights along the way. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking out those stories that inspire you to live a life of purpose and meaning. We've been talking about, how fame isn't always what it's cracked up to be.
Right.
But it's funny because even knowing the potential downsides,
Yeah.
there's still this undeniable pull to fame and fortune.
Yeah.
Why do you think we're so fascinated by this whole celebrity culture?
That's a question that's puzzled scholars for ages.
Right.
I think part of it, as we've touched upon, is this inherent human tendency to seek out those who embody our aspirations.
Yeah.
Fame, in many ways, represents the pinnacle of achievement in our society.
Right. It's like we're drawn to those who have seemingly conquered the challenges we all face. That desire for recognition,
Yeah.
the pursuit of success, the longing for a life that feels extraordinary.
Exactly.
But the perils and paradoxes of fame and fortune suggests that our fascination with fame goes beyond just aspiration.
Absolutely. The source dives into this psychological concept of mirroring,
Okay.
suggesting that we see aspects of ourselves reflected in celebrities.
Oh, interesting.
We identify with their struggles, their triumphs, even their flaws.
Okay.
It's like looking into a distorted mirror where the basic human experience is amplified
Yeah.
and played out on this grand stage.
So it's not just about wanting to be them.
Right.
It's about recognizing something of ourselves in their stories,
Exactly.
even if it's just a fleeting glimpse.
And that's what makes these celebrity narratives so compelling.
Yeah.
We're not just observing their lives from a distance.
Right.
We're engaging with them on an emotional level.
Right. We're celebrating their successes, empathizing with their struggles, and sometimes even judging their missteps as if they were our own.
Exactly. Like we're living vicariously through them.
Yeah.
experiencing the highs and lows of fame without actually having to endure that pressure cooker environment.
Right, and that's part of the allure, isn't it?
Yeah.
The chance to kind of dip our toes
Yeah.
into this world that seems both familiar and extraordinary.
Right.
To experience the thrill of success without the risk of failure.
Exactly.
But as we've been discussing, the reality of fame is often far less glamorous
Oh, yeah.
than how it appears.
Right.
And that disconnect between perception and reality can be dangerous,
It can.
leading to unrealistic expectations and a distorted sense of self.
Which is why it's so crucial to develop a critical perspective on celebrity culture.
Right.
To remember that fame is a construct,
Yeah.
a carefully crafted image that doesn't always reflect the full story.
Right. It's like we need to remember that celebrities are human beings just like us,
Yeah,
with their own flaws, insecurities, complexities.
exactly. And that behind that curated persona, there's a real person
Yeah.
who experiences the same range of emotions and challenges and triumphs as anyone else.
So how do we reconcile this inherent fascination with fame
Yeah.
with the knowledge that it's not always what it seems?
Right.
How do we enjoy the entertainment value of it without falling into that trap of idolization or
Well,
letting it negatively impact our own self-esteem?
that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the answer lies in finding a balance
Okay.
between appreciation and detachment.
Uh-huh.
We can appreciate the artistry, the talent, the dedication that goes into achieving success without buying into the hype or letting it define our own sense of worth.
Okay, so it's about recognizing the humanity behind the fame,
Yes.
the hard work and dedication
Yeah.
that often goes unnoticed amidst all the glitz and glamour.
Precisely. And it's
Yeah.
about being mindful of the narratives that we're consuming
Yeah.
and the messages that we're internalizing.
Right.
Are we letting celebrity culture dictate our own values and aspirations?
Right.
Or are we using it as a springboard for self-reflection,
Okay.
for exploring our own dreams and ambitions in a way that feels authentic and aligned with our values?
That's a powerful distinction.
Yeah.
It's like we have a choice.
We do.
We can either let fame consume us,
Yeah.
fuel our insecurities, distract us from our own path,
Right.
or we can use it as a tool for self-discovery,
Yeah.
for inspiration, for understanding the complexities of human nature.
Beautifully put. And that's what makes this whole exploration of fame and fortune so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just about celebrities.
Right.
It's about understanding ourselves, our own desires, and our place in the world.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive, I'm struck by this quote from the source material.
Okay.
And it says, "Fame is a mirror reflecting both the best and worst of ourselves. It's up to us to decide what we choose to see."
That's a brilliant way to summarize it.
Yeah.
Fame can be a very powerful force, both positive and negative. The key is to approach it with awareness, discernment,
Yeah.
and a healthy dose of self-reflection.
So as we navigate this complex world of celebrity culture,
Yeah.
let's remember to keep those insights in mind.
Yes.
To appreciate the entertainment value without losing sight of the humanity behind the fame.
Exactly. And to recognize that true fulfillment comes not from external validation,
Right.
but from aligning our actions with our values, pursuing our passions, and making a positive impact on the world in our own unique way.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of fame and fortune. We hope you've gained some valuable insights along the way. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking out those stories that inspire you to live a life of purpose and meaning.
This is DigitView.